Flight 11 is almost here, everyone. As always, when SpaceX announced the latest launch update, they also shared new details about the mission, including the specific steps that make up the full flight timeline. This is the perfect moment to bring everything together in one clear summary, so you can easily follow along, enjoy the launch, and take note of the most important milestones. So with that, get ready and join us as we dive into all of it on today's episode of Great SpaceX. As mentioned earlier, Starship Flight 11 is currently scheduled for October 13th. This date is not just any random milestone, but it holds a special meaning when compared to history. It was exactly 1 year ago, on October 13th of last year, that SpaceX carried out Starship Flight 5, a mission that marked a pivotal step forward in the development of the program. That launch etched itself into history as the first time SpaceX successfully achieved a full-duration burn of Starship's upper stage. Now, 1 year later to the day, Flight 11 is preparing to fly. This timing seems to suggest that SpaceX may be aiming to mark another historic achievement, as if deliberately creating a symbolic connection between these two flights. Liftoff has been scheduled for precisely 6:15 p.m. Central. The significance of this timing is that it'll allow both stages, the Super Heavy booster and the Starship upper stage, to carry out their landings in daylight, which means that the audience will be able to witness every maneuver in vivid detail. This detail alone adds excitement for spectators around the world who have been eagerly following Starship's development. As with all major launches, there is a structured sequence of events leading up to liftoff. If the launch time is set for 6:15 p.m., the live broadcast will likely go live about 30 minutes prior, allowing audiences to watch the dramatic fueling process and get real-time updates from SpaceX's team. Long before ignition, however, the work begins behind the scenes. At 1 hour and 15 minutes before launch, the flight director will formally conduct a verification and confirm the command of go for propellant loading. This crucial checkpoint signals the beginning of an awe-inspiring visual display at the launch site, as the massive storage tanks, the orbital launch mount, the integration tower, and the rocket itself begin venting. These venting plumes of methane and oxygen create what many fans describe as a magical, almost otherworldly scene, signaling that the rocket is coming alive. At exactly T-minus 53 minutes, liquid methane begins flowing into the tanks of the Starship upper stage. Shortly afterward, at T-minus 45 minutes, liquid oxygen follows, chilling the tanks and preparing the vehicles for flight. This same process is repeated on the Super Heavy booster, but in a slightly delayed order. At approximately T-minus 41 minutes and 30 seconds, liquid methane is pumped into the booster's massive tanks, followed by liquid oxygen at T-minus 33 minutes. During this period, the rocket engines also undergo what is known as an engine chill. In this step, super cold cryogenic fuel begins circulating through the plumbing and turbopumps of the Raptor engines. The reason for this is straightforward but critical. The extreme difference in temperature between room temperature components and liquid methane, or liquid oxygen, cause what engineers call a temperature shock. By pre-cooling the engines with chilled fuel, SpaceX avoids structural stress and ensures that the engines will ignite reliably when the countdown reaches zero. With fueling completed, Starship and Super Heavy enter a state of full readiness. At approximately T-minus 3 minutes and 30 seconds, and again at T-minus 2 minutes and 50 seconds, the fueling lines are sealed off and the tanks are pressurized. At this stage, the vehicle stands fully loaded with propellant, ready to unleash its immense power. However, readiness alone is not enough. The final authority rests with the flight director, who must complete a final verification and confirm the go for launch at around T-minus 40 seconds, and it's at this point that the viewers may notice the countdown holding briefly as all systems are checked one final time. Once the flight director gives the green light, the tension rises. 10 seconds before liftoff, the water deluge system roars to life, spraying thousands of gallons of water across the OLM. This step is essential as it protects the ground systems from the extreme heat and acoustic energy of 33 Raptor engines firing at once. The crowd usually begins counting down together at this point, with the atmosphere on the livestream and at the launch site filled with anticipation. At T-minus 3 seconds, the Raptor engines initiate the start sequence. In rapid succession, all 33 engines ignite, as sensors confirm full thrust, clamps release, and the 400-foot-tall rocket begins to rise into the sky. The rumble of liftoff is an unmistakable moment that marks the beginning of another chapter in the Starship story. The climb to space is filled with critical checkpoints. At 1 minute and 2 seconds into flight, Starship passes through Max Q, the point of maximum aerodynamic pressure. This is when the rocket faces the most intense structural stress caused by the competing forces of speed and atmospheric density. Successfully clearing Max Q is always a cause for relief among engineers and viewers alike. Roughly 2 minutes and 30 seconds after liftoff, the next major event takes place: stage separation. The outer and middle ring of booster engines cut off in a step known as main engine cutoff, or MECO, or MECO for short. Only 3 central engines remain firing, providing just enough thrust to stabilize the booster. Simultaneously, the engines on the upper stage ignite, with the help of the hot staging ring. Starship detaches from the booster, beginning its journey into orbit, while the Super Heavy prepares for return. Let us first follow the Super Heavy. Almost immediately after separation, the booster conducts a boost-back burn. 13 engines roar back to life, carefully adjusting the vehicle's orientation and trajectory for its planned return. This burn lasts close to a full minute before engines shut down in sequence and the hot staging ring is jettisoned. Afterward, the booster enters freefall for several minutes. At 6 minutes and 20 seconds into the mission, the landing burn ignites. This sequence involves both inner and middle ring engines working together to slow down and guide the massive rocket. As altitude decreases below 1 kilometer, most engines shut down, leaving just a handful to handle the precise final descent. For this flight, SpaceX plans to adjust the configuration. Instead of reducing directly to 3 engines, the booster will keep 5 active, likely 3 inner engines and 2 middle engines, to provide additional control. Once stability is achieved, the system will throttle back to the familiar 3-engine configuration. Using gimbaling, Super Heavy will control both its position and orientation as it approaches the landing zone. The booster is then expected to softly touch down in the Gulf, completing its portion of the mission. Meanwhile, Starship continues pressing onward. Its engines burn until the upper stage reaches orbit, finally cutting off at 8 minutes and 57 seconds into flight. After this point, Starship enjoys a quiet cruise before the next milestone, satellite deployment. 18 minutes after liftoff, the payload doors open and the dispenser begins its work. For Flight 11, SpaceX has chosen once again to deploy 8 simulated satellites. These test payloads serve as a practice run for future, real deployments. The dispenser carefully adjusts each satellite, raising the lowest ones until they align with the door. The system then pushes each satellite into space, one by one. This process continues over 7 minutes and concludes at the 25-minute mark. SpaceX has successfully demonstrated this step before, but each repetition builds confidence for future operational missions. At 37 minutes and 48 seconds into flight, a single Raptor engine reignites. This step demonstrates the ability to restart in space, a vital capability for missions to higher orbits, lunar flights, and beyond. Once verified, the mission transitions into its most perilous stage, re-entry. At 47 minutes and 29 seconds, Starship plunges back into Earth's atmosphere. The heat shield tiles on its belly faces enormous stress as plasma engulfs the vehicle. Interestingly, SpaceX has deliberately removed some tiles on this flight, exposing vulnerable areas to test the system under extreme conditions. This is one of the most suspenseful moments of the mission as engineers gather invaluable data about the shield's performance. Around the 1-hour mark, Starship slows into transonic speeds. Instead of heading directly to a landing, the spacecraft performs dynamic banking maneuvers, testing subsonic guidance algorithms. This experimental step simulates the complex paths Starship will one day follow when returning to Starbase for a controlled landing on land. Finally, at 1 hour, 6 minutes, and 14 seconds after liftoff, Starship rotates from belly first to vertical orientation. 3 sea-level engines ignite, slowing the vehicle and guiding it carefully toward the ocean. As the vehicle nears the surface, the engines shut down and Starship performs a gentle splashdown at 1 hour, 6 minutes, and 30 seconds. This will conclude Flight 11's ambitious mission. If all goes as planned, the day will mark not just another test, but a symbolic moment of progress for humanity's path to the stars. From liftoff to re-entry, each stage reflects years of engineering work and countless hours of dedication. Keep in mind, Starship Flight 11 is more than just another trial. It's both a farewell to older hardware and a rehearsal for the future. Unique elements set this mission apart, each one offering a glimpse into how SpaceX is steadily refining Starship for the next generation and beyond. First, neither stage will attempt a tower catch. Instead, S-37 and B-15 will both conclude with splashdowns. The decision allows SpaceX to focus on performance and data collection rather than recovery. Both vehicles are on their final flights, giving engineers the chance to extract maximum knowledge before moving to newer, recovery-ready designs at Starbase. Second, close attention will be on B-15's engines. During Flight 10, a middle ring engine failure underscored their importance for ascent and landing burns. Flight 11 raises the stakes, as 24 of Booster 15's 33 Raptors are reused. While closely inspected, this test will show how far SpaceX can push reuse while maintaining reliability. Third, the vehicle's passage through Max Q remains a subtle but important milestone. Earlier flights revealed that stresses here can ripple downstream, indirectly affecting later events. How Flight 11 weathers the stage will influence the upper stage's performance. Fourth, this will be the final mission to discard a hot staging ring. SpaceX has completed this maneuver successfully 8 times, but it runs counter to the principle of reusability. Beginning with version 3, hot staging will be built directly into Super Heavy, eliminating the need to jettison hardware into the ocean. Fifth, the booster's landing profile has been revised. Instead of transitioning directly from 13 engines to 3, Flight 11 will step down to 13, then 5, then 3. This adds redundancy, allowing the booster to compensate if 1 or 2 engines fail. It's an important rehearsal for V3 recovery operations. On the upper stage, the ship will perform a simulated return trajectory similar to a future landing at Starbase. This test is crucial for refining guidance, control, and atmospheric maneuvering. Observers will be watching closely to see how Starship handles this complex sequence. Re-entry remains one of the most dramatic and critical phases. The thermal protection system has posed challenges in past flights, from tile loss to flap damage. For Flight 11, SpaceX has likely implemented upgrades, such as better tile bonding, reinforced flaps, or other refinements. The fiery descent will test these changes in real conditions. Together, these elements make Flight 11 a turning point. It marks the end for Ship 37 and B-15, but it also prepares the ground for V3 hardware, greater reusability, and eventually tower landings at Starbase. Every stage from liftoff to splashdown is designed to gather data, validate fixes, and prove concepts that will define Starship's future. As the countdown nears its end, anticipation builds. Flight 11 may close one chapter, but it opens another, one that carries the promise of faster turnarounds, greater reliability, and an era of rapid, reusable spaceflight. This is still SpaceX's moment to make history. In any case, folks, this has been Kevin with Great SpaceX. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you haven't already to stay up to date with yours truly on the latest milestones in SpaceX's journey. Thank you so much for watching, and always remember, curiosity, imagination, and inspiration will follow you so long as you keep looking up.